Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas. I'm Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus on Gravitas tonight, we are telling you all about how India avenged the April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack. We tell you all about Operation Mahadev and how India trapped and killed the Pakistani terrorists behind the Pahalgam horror. That's coming up in just a bit. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We are telling you all about Vladimir Putin's deadly response to Donald Trump's ultimatum. Where do things stand and where are they headed? We get you the complete story on the horror that unfolded in Manhattan in the United States as a lone gunman turned a building into a battle zone. All this and more coming up.
के नागरिकों की सुरक्षा की जिम्मेदारी किसकी है? सिर्फ श्रेय लेने से नहीं होता नेतृत्व।
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर और पहलगांव की घटना पर दुनिया के किसी भी देश ने हमारा साथ नहीं दिया।
ये सारी आतंकवाद की जड़ पाकिस्तान है और पाकिस्तान कांग्रेस पार्टी की भूल है। टेररिज्म के खिलाफ हमारी जीरो टॉलरेंस की नीति है।
80% पानी पाकिस्तान का हम रोक रहे हैं। ये कहकर के पानी और खून नहीं बहेगा, आप क्रिकेट मैच खेलेंगे।
29 बार उन्होंने बोला कि भैया मैंने सीज फायर करवाया। अगर वो झूठ बोल रहे हैं तो अपने भाषण में यहाँ प्रधानमंत्री कह दें कि वो झूठ बोल रहे हैं।
There was no call between the Prime Minister and President Trump.
यह मानना कि ऑपरेशन किसी दबाव में रोका गया था, यह बेबुनियाद है और सरासर गलत है।
अगर भारत पर आतंकी हमला हुआ तो हम अपने तरीके से, अपनी शर्तों पर, अपने समय पर जवाब देकर के रहेंगे। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर जारी है।
April 22nd, 2025. It was a day India will never forget. An ordinary day in tourist-packed Pahalgam turned into a blood-soaked nightmare. Pakistani terrorists appeared armed with weapons. What followed was ethnic killing and fascist murder. Innocent tourists were asked about their fate, stripped and then shot point blank. It was ethnic execution in the beautiful Bairsaran Valley by Pakistani terrorists. India was shaken, the world was horrified, and soon the dots began to connect. Pakistan's Lashkar-e-Toiba, cauldron of terrorism, claimed responsibility. India's Prime Minister vowed that justice would be done. The guilty would be punished. It marked the start of 90 days of punishment and accountability, culminating in the death of the guilty terrorists. India's response started with Operation Sindoor, and it ended yesterday with Operation Mahadev, where the three attackers were gunned down in a joint operation by the Indian Army, the CRPF, and the Jammu and Kashmir Police. Home Minister Amit Shah, who led Operation Mahadev, was the commander of the operations. India knew who to punish. A day after the April 22nd attack in Pahalgam, Lashkar-e-Toiba publicly claimed responsibility for the attack. The first target was the mentor of the LET, Pakistan's government. Prime Minister Modi authorized Operation Sindoor, with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval in operational charge reporting to Prime Minister Modi. On May 7, when India launched Operation Sindoor, Pakistan learned a lesson it will not forget in a hurry. At 1:04 a.m., India launched airstrikes 100 kilometers inside Pakistan. 9 terror launch pads were destroyed. Over 100 terrorists were neutralized. 6 Pakistani radar systems taken out. No civilian casualties were reported. The strike was precise, hitting only terror camps. The brilliant effectiveness of the BrahMos and India's ability to shatter the Chinese defense systems, protecting Pakistan's most precious military assets, including its nuclear assets, was seen by the world watching the action through satellites. Pakistan repeatedly tried to hit Indian air bases and was effectively repulsed in almost every case. And by 9th of May, Pakistan knew it had been beaten. Home Minister Amit Shah, who took direct control of Operation Mahadev, told India's parliament that India's response had been just, careful, and dramatically effective. He said, and I'm quoting, "We did not bomb civilian homes. We destroyed Pakistan's attacking capability." On May 10, a ceasefire was initiated. Following the strikes, Pakistan's DGMO, called India's DGMO, a ceasefire was requested. India made it clear that Pakistan would have to make clear to the world that it was pleading for a cessation of hostilities. India agreed to a ceasefire, not a cessation. Home Minister Amit Shah clarified in the parliament today that India accepted because its immediate mission was accomplished, but not its full mission. Those killers of Pahalgam were still alive, and India's security agencies were continuing their quiet hunt. On the 22nd of May, Operation Mahadev begins. Security agencies receive a tip-off. Human intelligence places the attackers in the Dachigam Falls range, and Home Minister Amit Shah arrives in Srinagar by 5:30 p.m. A strict order is issued. Do not allow them to cross the border, quote unquote. On 22nd of June, a key breakthrough emerges. After interrogating over 1,000 people, sketches and forensic analysis, Indian security agencies help identify 2 locals, Bashir and Parvez. They had given protection and shelter to the 3 terrorists, now fully identified. On July 28, Operation Mahadev is executed. The Indian Army, CRPF, the Jammu and Kashmir Police eliminate all 3 attackers in a 20-minute gun battle. Also a category terrorist. Weapons seized from them match those used in the April 22nd attack. Victim identification, the sketches, the FSL reports, as well as Pakistani-made items were recovered from them, including chocolates and even voter ID numbers confirmed their identity as well as nationality. Amit Shah said, and I'm quoting, "These were Pakistani citizens. We have proof," quote unquote. And today, Amit Shah outlined the entire operation. A political firestorm also erupted in the parliament. The opposition party leaders welcomed the elimination of the terrorists, but as is normal in a democracy, raised questions. And their key question was, how and why did the April 22nd attack happen in the first place? Indian National Congress's Priyanka Gandhi Vadra asked, why no security personnel were present at the attack site? Samajwadi Party's Akhilesh Yadav questioned the ceasefire, calling it under pressure. DMK leader Kanimuri demanded details on which countries openly supported India. The answer came from the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. He said that India had the support of 190-plus UN countries, with only 3 opposing the operation. He listed the diplomatic wins. The US designated Lashkar's proxy TRF as a terror group following India's push. Even BRICS, including Pakistan's all-weather friend China, condemned the attack. He said, and I'm quoting here, "This was diplomacy with purpose. The world stood with India," quote unquote. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh also added that India suffered no major losses, no aircraft or critical assets were hit. He clarified, and I'm quoting, "Pakistan tried to strike, but our air defense systems blocked every attempt," quote unquote. So this is the full arc from the horror of April 22nd to the retaliation of May 7 and the justice that was delivered on July 28. It took its time, but ultimately, India's message was absolutely clear. Terrorism will be hunted, terrorists will receive a death sentence. And those who shelter terrorists will not escape. Operation Sindoor and Operation Mahadev have become a chapter of success in the world's long and continuous fight against the evil of terrorism. And as India avenges the Pahalgam terror attack, it has brought some measure of closure to the grieving families. For the families of the victims, the news has brought some relief.
Because those who killed my brother have been killed.
जी बहुत खुश हैं। जो हाथ एक्चुअली पहलगाम अटैक में थे वो मारे गए हैं, वो खत्म हो गए हैं और ये एक तरीके से एक बहुत प्राउड मूवमेंट है क्योंकि उन लोगों को ढूंढ के निकालना बहुत मुश्किल की चीज़ थी। वो जिस तरीके से नाम बदल के जंगलों के बीच में अलग तरीके से शेल्टर बना के रहते हैं, इन्हें ढूंढना थोड़ी मुश्किल की चीज़ हो जाती है। जब आप सामने से लड़ते हो तो हमारी आर्मी को पता है कैसे लड़ना है। इन्हें ढूंढने के लिए हमें अलग पूरा एक वो बनाना पड़ता है, अलग एक पूरी टीम बनती है। एंड आई एम रियली प्राउड ऑफ दैट टीम कि उन्होंने ढूंढ के निकाला, इन्हें न्यूट्रलाइज किया है। एंड टुडे आई एम काइंड ऑफ इन अ रिलीफ कि जहाँ पे भी शुभम है, आज वो कहीं पीस पे होगा कि मेरे को जिन लोगों ने मेरे साथ गलत किया, जिन लोगों ने उन 26 लोगों के साथ गलत किया, आज वो नहीं है।
Remember, the attack in April targeted a group of tourists visiting the scenic Pahalgam Valley. Survivors described a sudden burst of gunfire as the attackers vanished into the forest. The wounds from that April day may never fully heal, but for the families who lost their loved ones, this encounter offers something that they have been waiting for, a reckoning.
This moment as a survivor of the attack, I feel deeply proud about the Indian Army and the unwavering commitment of our central government led by Shri Narendra Modi ji, Home Minister Shri Amit Shah ji, Defence Minister, all the officials working towards it. We have crossed actually 3 months since the attack, but the operation have never stopped. The investigation have never stopped. So this shows the strength of India. So I'm deeply proud about that. As an Indian, India showing zero tolerance to terrorism.
And ending all speculation and confusion, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the Parliament today, making it clear that India's response to the Pahalgam attack was deliberate, strong and decisive. He confirmed that the armed forces were given a free hand and that Pakistan's nuclear threats failed to deter India. He also asserted that no foreign leader put any kind of pressure on India. Listen in.
सेना को कार्रवाई की खुली छूट दे दी गई और यह भी कहा गया कि सेना तय करें कब, कहां, कैसे, किस प्रकार से। ये सारी बातें उस मीटिंग में साफ साफ कह दी गई और कुछ बातें उसमें से मीडिया में शायद रिपोर्ट भी हुई है। पहलगाम हमले के बाद से ही पाकिस्तानी सेना को अंदाजा लग चुका था कि भारत कोई बड़ी कार्रवाई करेगा।
Shifting focus for now, hours after US President Donald Trump issued Moscow a new deadline to end its war in Ukraine, Ukraine has said that Russia responded with attacks that killed at least 27 people. In fact, the Ukrainian president accused Russia of willfully targeting a prison in the Zaporizhia region with glide bombs and ballistic missiles in an overnight strike. It killed at least 27 people across the country. According to Ukrainian officials, Russian forces struck the Zaporizhia district 8 times with the bombs overnight.
There was one bomb, then another one hit the canteen, then there was a third one. It was dark, there was dust, people were shouting, some were alive, some dead, some had lost their legs, and half of the people were on fire.
Rescue workers were seen searching for survivors in pictures released by the region's emergency services, and according to the local officials, 274 people were serving sentences in the prison facility. In addition to the glide bomb attack, the Ukrainian Air Force has said that Russia had launched 37 drones and 2 missiles overnight, adding that its air defense systems had downed 32 of the drones. According to the Ukrainian officials, at least 6 people were killed in separate overnight Russian strikes in Kharkiv, including a 23-year-old pregnant woman. In southern Ukraine, firefighters were seen working through the night to contain a blaze after Russian drone strikes led to massive fires. According to the local state emergency service, the fire spread across 4,000 square meters and destroyed 3 vehicles. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed fresh advances across the front line with Ukraine, saying its forces had taken control of 2 more villages, one in Donetsk and another in the Zaporizhia region. However, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said that Moscow remains committed to the peace process to resolve the conflict, quote unquote. He further claimed that the Russian army does not strike civilian targets. Earlier, Trump had shortened the 50-day ultimatum that he had issued to the Russian president to 10 to 12 days, underscoring frustration with Putin over the Ukraine war. However, Moscow has pushed back to the renewed threat. In a post on X, the former Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, warned that Russia is neither Israel nor Iran and that each ultimatum is a threat and step towards war. The desperation is mounting in Gaza, and amid the rising anger and concern over the humanitarian situation there on the ground, the Israeli foreign minister has said that the situation in Gaza is tough, but there are lies about starvation. The foreign minister has rejected what he called a distorted campaign of international pressure for a ceasefire in the Gaza war and recognition of a Palestinian state. He told reporters that Israel ending the conflict while Hamas is still in power in Gaza and holding hostages would be a tragedy for both Israelis and Palestinians. Let's also tell you about what the US president has said. Donald Trump has warned that the people of Gaza are facing real starvation as aid agencies seek to take advantage of an Israeli tactical pause of some military operations to rush in food aid.
But we're going to be getting some good, strong food. We can save a lot of people. I mean, some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved. We did some airlifts before, some airdrops, and the people are running for it.
During a meeting with the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Scotland, Donald Trump emphasized on the need for the Israeli Prime Minister to ensure aid reaches Gaza.
So I think I can speak for the Prime Minister. We're giving money and things. He's got to sort of like run it. Well, I want them to make sure they get the food. I want to make sure they get the food, every ounce of food. I think you want the same thing.
US Vice President J.D. Vance has stressed that Israel's got to do more to let the aid in. He's also expressed deep concern over the dire situation in Gaza. The remarks from Trump and Vance came after Netanyahu declared earlier that there is no starvation in Gaza, no policy of starvation in Gaza. In recent days, the UN and humanitarian agencies have started delivering more truckloads of food after the Israeli military declared a daily tactical pause in the fighting and opened secure aid routes. Jordan and the UAE have started airdropping aid packages, while Egypt has sent trucks through its Rafah border crossing to an Israeli post just inside Gaza. And this is what the inside of an aid package dropped from the sky over Gaza looks like. The boxes shown to news agency Reuters contain about 4 cans of chickpeas, 2 cans of tuna, 2 packs of pasta, 1 pack of rice, lentils, salt and cooking oil. A UN-backed monitor has warned on Tuesday that the worst-case scenario of famine is now unfolding in Gaza, adding that airdropping food into the Palestinian territory was insufficient. The Integrated Food Security faced classification, saying airdrops will not be enough to reverse the humanitarian catastrophe, saying only immediate, unimpeded humanitarian access into Gaza can stop the rapidly rising starvation and death. Meanwhile, here's a sample of the desperation on the ground, of the voices surfacing from on the ground in Gaza.
What happened is that the parachute fell on the roof. It damaged the roof. People attacked the house. This is not the way to distribute aid. The old way was we would receive a message to get a coupon. People attacked us for the sake of an aid parcel. People are hungry.
Gaza's health authorities are reporting a devastating milestone. Meanwhile, the Palestinian death toll from the relentless Israeli attacks in the Gaza Strip has now surpassed 60,000. In fact, Gaza's health authorities claim that in just the past 24 hours, Israeli forces have killed at least 112 people and injured 637 more, pushing the total to over 60,000 dead and over 145,000 injured since the conflict escalated in October 2023. On Tuesday, tragedy struck again as Israeli airstrikes obliterated residential homes in the Al-Nusayrat refugee camp. At least 30 Palestinians died in the attack, most of them women and children, according to the Al-Avda hospital staff. International reactions are intensifying as the death toll climbs and the famine looms. The German Chancellor has announced Germany, France and Britain are considering dispatching their foreign ministers to Israel next week in a joint effort to try and break the deadlock. The diplomatic pressure is mounting, with Europe urging Israel to urgently open Gaza to more humanitarian relief. Shifting focus now to the United States. Screams rang out in the heart of Manhattan. Fear swept through Midtown's towers as a lone gunman turned a building into a battle zone, killing 4 people, including a policeman, before apparently taking his own life. The incident once again bringing the spotlight back on the menace of the rising gun violence in the United States. As ordinary citizens die in the chaos, one man remains completely secure: US President Donald Trump. Take a look.
New York City, Monday morning. A luxury high-rise erupted into chaos. Gunshots ripped through Midtown Manhattan. Pedestrians diving for cover and shattering the illusion of safety in one of the world's most policed cities. The bullet holes mark the scene of the deadly attack at the Manhattan skyscraper. On entering the building, the gunman opened fire on a police officer before spraying the lobby with bullets. Witnesses described pure horror.
I was in my office. Actually, my mom was the first person to text me about the active shooter. She was asking, was I okay? There's an active shooter like on Park, and then she texted me the address, and I was like, oh my God, that's like right next door to my building.
At first, we walking down the block, we see mad people walking, like running. We're like, what the hell going on? And then some lady, she couldn't stop talking. She said, oh, is somebody gunned this and that?
The gunman, Shane Tamura, fatally shot himself in the chest on the 33rd floor of the skyscraper. Police say the gunman believed to have acted alone.
According to our law enforcement partners in Las Vegas, Mr. Tamura has a documented mental health history. His motives are still under investigation, and we are working to understand why he targeted this particular location.
Just hours earlier, another shooting broke out in a Nevada casino, leaving 3 dead and several injured. A suspect is now in custody, but the pattern is all too familiar.
Yeah, early this morning, about 7:25, we received a report of an active shooter in the Valet area, the GSR. We responded to the scene, and within 4 minutes, we had located the suspect, and an officer-involved shooting had occurred. The suspect was taken to the hospital.
There have been 254 mass shootings in the U.S. this year. On average, the U.S. sees more than 120 gun-related deaths every day. Nearly 47,000 people died of gun-related injuries in the United States in 2023. Children, teens, police officers, no one escapes unscathed. The body count remains among the highest in the world and far above anything seen a generation ago. Shootings have become so routine, they no longer shock the nation, they exhaust it. But in a nation rocked by terror, Donald Trump, under watchful eyes, golfs in Scotland with security detail so tight it borders on the surreal. His latest safeguard, a gleaming black armored golf cart dubbed Golf Force One, trailing him down the fairways, evoking the beast with bulletproof glass, reinforced panels and a dedicated Secret Service convoy. It's a rolling fortress for President Trump, a world away from the bloodshed of America's streets. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And before we go on, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We get to a special story on how India is opening strategic border zones to tourists and taking tourism to new heights. You don't want to miss this. Can Alzheimer's be cured? We tell you about a new drug to treat the disease that has shown promising results in its early trials. Have human beings created new seasons, 2 new seasons? No need to wonder what the story is all about. We're getting you all the details in just a bit. Stay with us. Time now for Gravitas Deep Dive. A global race for bigger, deadlier missiles is underway. And Turkey has just made a bold new entry. The Turkish defense firm Roketsan has unveiled a super-sized upgrade of its Typhoon short-range ballistic missile. It's called Typhoon Block 4, a weapon that is bigger and potentially much more powerful. Take a look at this. According to defense analysts, Block 4 is nearly 10 meters long and weighs over 7 tons, making it nearly triple the size of the original missile. In fact, its sheer size has triggered speculation that Block 4 might fall into the medium-range ballistic missile category, capable of reaching over 1,000 kilometers. While official range figures remain classified, Turkey has made its ambitions clear. President Erdogan has openly framed the Typhoon missile as a deterrent against Greece and other regional rivals. Despite being called hypersonic, Typhoon Block 4 does not have the maneuvering characteristics of a next-gen hypersonic weapon. It's still a ballistic missile, fast but predictable in flight. The missile is fitted with a powerful fragmentation warhead and a precision guidance system with a targeting error margin of just 10 meters. And Turkey is not stopping here, by the way. The country is already working on another MRBM, codenamed CENK, and reportedly testing missiles in Somalia, where longer test ranges are easier to achieve. But Turkey's ambitions are not just military, they're also commercial. The original Bora missile, on which Typhoon is based, has been adapted for export. In fact, Indonesia has already signed a deal. Still, there are limits here. Turkey is bound by the Missile Technology Control Regime, which basically restricts the export of missiles with long range and heavy payloads. In fact, globally, interest in ballistic missiles is resurging, driven by the current wars like Russia's Oreshnik missile that it used in Ukraine, Iran's missile strike during the June conflict with Israel, and the US ballistic missiles are proving their worth with the hypersonic terminal speeds, deep penetration, and strategic reach. Typhoon Block 4, whether it officially becomes a medium-range missile or not, is Turkey's boldest signal yet that it wants a seat at the global missile table. And as military powers around the world scale up their missile programs in different ways, Turkey's Typhoon Block 4 may only be the beginning of a much larger and more dangerous ballistic missile race. Switching gears, it's a tourism trend unlike any other, one that does not just offer sights, but also stories of sacrifice and stories of valor. India is taking battlefield tourism to new heights, quite literally. On July 25, the Sikkim government announced that Chola, a high-altitude pass near the India-China border, will soon be open to tourists. And that is just one part of a much bigger plan. It's called Ranbhoomi Darshan, an initiative launched earlier this year to open up 77 key military sites across India for public visits. From the famous post in Rajasthan to Doklam in Sikkim, civilians will now be able to step into locations that were once off limits. These include sites in Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, including Chola and areas near Doklam. The same Doklam that saw a tense India-China standoff in 2017. So what exactly is battlefield tourism all about? It's basically a form of travel that takes you to war memorials, military museums, historic conflict zones, and more, offering not just views, but also perspective. Of course, globally, battlefield tourism is not anything new. Millions visit the D-Day beaches of Normandy, the Berlin Wall, Hiroshima, even the tense DMZ between North and South Korea. What's the draw, in case you're wondering? They carry the weight of history, and India is now offering something similar. Ranbhoomi Darshan is a collaboration between the Indian Army, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Tourism, and of course the states involved to make the visit safe and seamless. An official app was recently launched by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. It gives the users virtual tours, historical context, permit information, and even tips for high altitude zones. And this is not just about patriotism or education. It will also be about empowering the local communities by bringing tourism to remote and rural areas that rarely see footfall in a way. More tourists means more demand for local guides, for homestays, for transport, new jobs in regions that often rely solely on army presence. And now infrastructure is being built, from visitor centers to war memorials and even small museums at some sites. It's history coming alive, right where it happened. India's new battlefield tourism plan is turning conflict landscapes into places of connection between citizens and the soldiers, and history. India's cashless revolution is here. From pawn shops to petrol pumps, sabzi mandis, sari stores, India's digital payment journey has truly gone to the grassroots level. We've all seen it happen. In the last 5 years, in fact, over 65,000 crore digital transactions have been made across the country. What was once a privilege of urban India, in a way, has now become a habit in small towns, remote villages and areas. According to India's Ministry of Finance, the massive number of transactions adding up to more than 12,000 lakh crore rupees, adding up to more than 12,000 lakh crore rupees. The government says this was not just natural growth, it was engineered through policy, infrastructure, innovation. The Minister of State for Finance says the government worked closely with the RBI, NPCI, fintech players, banks, state governments to fuel this massive growth, particularly in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities of India. One of the game changers was the Payments Infrastructure Development Fund, PIDF, which was launched in 2021. It funded QR codes, digital terminals in far-flung places from the remote northeastern states to Jammu and Kashmir. As of May 2025, 4.77 crore digital touchpoints have been deployed under this initiative. Platforms like UPI have redefined financial access. Small vendors, gig workers, even in the most remote areas, now accept digital payments with ease. And this ease of payments not only reduces cash dependence, but also brings people into the formal economy. It's more than just convenience. These digital footprints are unlocking access to formal credit, especially for those previously excluded from the financial system. To monitor this digital rise, the RBI developed the Digital Payments Index, which is basically a metric for tracking the speed and the scale of India's digitization. As of September 2024, the index stood at 465.33, up from just 100 in 2018. India's fintech model is now going global, and UPI is being expanded to over 20 countries, including France, Sri Lanka, the UAE, many others. Countries are looking to replicate India's success, where a QR code at a roadside chaiwala represents digital democracy. In fact, India's cashless revolution is not just a story of convenience, it's a story of inclusion. A chai, a kirana shop, a fisherman's morning catch, all paid for with a scan and a beep. That's the sound of a country going digital. In China, a new phenomenon is picking pace. After offering incentives and work leaves to young people to encourage having babies, the Chinese government now plans to extend the cash subsidies to new parents with children under the age of 3. In fact, the country that once limited babies is now paying for them, quite literally. Reports suggesting that under the new fiscal scheme, parents would be receiving 3,600 yuan, which is nearly $500 per year for every child born on or after January 1, 2025 until they turn 3. Not just that, children born before that date but still under 3 will also be eligible for a partial subsidy based on the remaining months. This is basically in a bid to tackle the demographic crisis. We've been telling you about this. And the crisis is deepening in the country, in fact. It's also aimed at helping more and more families with the cost of raising children. But how exactly did this happen to China? How did the country get here in the first place? Even after the ruling Communist Party abolished its controversial one-child policy, the country's birth rate has been falling steadily. Just last year, China's population fell for a third year in a row, according to official figures. In 2024, China recorded a total of 9.54 million babies born, a little up from 9.02 million born in 2023. And the United Nations predicting that China's population could dip from 1.4 billion this year to 800 million by the next century. This is alarming, to say the least. And to support the baby boom in the country and instill motivation among existing or to-be parents, over 20 provinces across China have introduced some form of payouts or financial incentives. But this latest childcare subsidy policy, touted the first nationwide scheme, is hoping to take things several notches when it comes to actually tackling the population crisis. Can Alzheimer's be cured? Experts think it might be possible. A new drug to treat the disease has shown promising results in its early trials, in fact. The trials suggest that this new treatment could halt the progression of the deadly disease in patients and might just be the most potent weapon against dementia, discovered in recent times. Presented at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference in Toronto, this drug was reportedly found to clear away build-up in the brains of 90% of the patients, more rapidly than any current licensed drug. Researchers are calling it game-changing when it comes to treating a terminal disease like Alzheimer's. And what's more, experts believe that it could actually become the first Alzheimer's drug to be funded by the NHS. However, they are yet to determine whether or not such a drug should actually be administered to those lacking symptoms as a preventive measure. The most common form of dementia, Alzheimer's, impacts nearly 7 million Americans. In the UK, around 1 million people suffer from dementia, with Alzheimer's disease the most common form. Reports suggest in India alone, over 8.8 million people suffer from dementia, and experts suggest that number could triple by 2050. What are the symptoms? This neurodegenerative disease could lead to forgetfulness, memory loss, decline in cognitive abilities, and impairment in daily tasks, among others. Unfortunately, there is no conclusive answer to treating the disease as of yet. Also troubling is the fact that diagnosis rates among Alzheimer's patients remain critically low, with many families either failing to recognize early signs or hesitating to do anything about it due to concerns of being stigmatized. But if one wants to reduce reliance on drugs, as per new research, certain lifestyle changes like walking frequently, proper diet and exercise can potentially delay the onset of the disease. India's big cats are under the global spotlight thanks to a rise in tiger population reported across the country that is increasing by leaps and bounds. This International Tigers Day, India will complete over 50 years of Project Tiger, a pioneering conservation program launched under the leadership of then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. India, home to over 75% of the world's wild tiger population, has reasons to cheer and celebrate. First and foremost, India has been reporting rising tiger counts across the length and breadth of the country. From Assam's Kaziranga, Tamil Nadu's Mudamalai, in fact, to village relocations in Jharkhand's Palamau, India's big cats are steadily expanding their footprint. India's flagship Project Tiger, which managed to save tigers from being poached or hunted or from permanent extinction, and made efforts to protect the tiger's natural habitat from human encroachment in a bid to protect the indigenous biodiversity. Under the same project, India now manages close to 60 tiger reserves spanning landscapes. To its list of success is also a growing international alliance, including countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, Russia, making India a global leader in the domain. And also, India is all set to relocate tigers to Cambodia, marking the first time in the world that tigers will be settled in another country. However, several challenges remain, such as rapid urbanization leading to a decline in forest cover in some parts and therefore an increased habitat loss, climate change, as well as human-animal conflicts, for these majestic beings to reign supreme. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, our planet's natural rhythm, long edged in time. But now scientists are warning that humanity has created 2 new seasons. The climate clock is breaking and we are the ones spinning the dial, unfortunately. In fact, we have tampered so deeply with nature's patterns, even the seasons are no longer sacred. In a revelation that should and could shake the foundations of environmental complacency, scientists have discovered 2 entirely new human-made seasons emerging on our planet. In fact, driven by climate change, extreme temperature swings and unnatural shifts in weather patterns, these new climate phases are not part of nature's design, they are manufactured by man. Researchers tracking global climate data have observed abrupt transitions that no longer align with the historical 4-season model. Instead, we are entering unstable hybrid periods where summers are stretching longer, spring vanishes in a way, unusual blistering heat waves erupt between the cooling phases. These are unnamed, uncharted seasons, born not of nature, but of carbon and chaos. These profound timing malfunctions wreaking havoc on our ecosystems, disrupting animal migrations and collapsing farming cycles crucial for food security. Governments are resorting to stopgap measures like air filters during the haze season. But these merely address the symptoms in a way and not the root cause. This grim reality forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Unless humanity drastically reorients its relationship with the planet, we are not just changing the climate, we are literally rewriting the fundamental fabric of Earth itself. On to China now. Days of relentless torrential downpour there, severe floods and landslides killed close to 40 people, left several others missing. Over 80,000 residents have been evacuated from the flood-stricken areas in Beijing and parts of northeast China. Our next report telling you more.
Another summer in China, and the country is reeling from devastating floods. However, this year seems to have topped the charts, with many calling the floods an event that takes place once in 100 years. Relief and rescue efforts are underway in several parts of China on an emergency basis, where water levels are not just knee-deep but also elbow-high. An eyewitness video captured a helicopter landing in a flooded residential area in capital Beijing. In WION, a suburban district of Beijing, among the hardest hit areas, floods have disrupted normal life, as residents grapple with no power and a lack of adequate transport in nearly 60 submerged roads. The other affected areas include Hebei, Jilin and Shandong in China's northern and eastern provinces, which are facing record-breaking rainfall.
4 roads have been fully reopened. We are also actively coordinating efforts to repair power and communication infrastructure.
For me, as a traveler to Beijing, this kind of weather is not particularly safe. On one hand, I feel that heavy rain can wash away some land. On the other hand, I think it's safe to travel via public transportation such as subway. So I'd suggest everyone to take public transport when traveling.
Extreme weather patterns, from record heat waves to deadly floods, are becoming a recurring pattern in China. Experts indicate climate change could be a reason for almost a year's worth of rain that fell in Beijing in just a few days. More rains are expected in the coming days, and flood alert have been issued for more areas. President Xi Jinping and other Chinese authorities have also asked citizens to stay prepared and brace themselves for worst-case to extreme scenarios. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Shifting focus now to France, where a resort town has introduced fines for people found to be walking around topless or in their swimsuits anywhere other than on the beach. Authorities in Vendée region on France's Atlantic coast have announced fines of up to $175 for those walking around the town half naked. According to officials, it's a question of respect for locals who don't want people wandering around their town half naked. And authorities are saying the rule for basic hygiene in the market area and in the streets. In fact, the mayor of the French resort posted a tagline on his social media site which said, "Respect does not go on a holiday." The new rule has sparked a wave of both support and criticism, with many leaving positive comments under the mayor's post, while others suggested that there are important things to worry about. Apart from this resort, another popular holiday spot on the west coast has introduced a fine of up to $172 for anyone walking around town in a state of undress. At this point of time, it's not just France that is trying to improve the visitors' behavior in a way. In 2023, authorities in the Spanish city of Malaga announced that anyone seen in the street or public spaces without clothes or wearing only underwear would face a fine of up to $874. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off, leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Thanks very much for watching.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind